to you. Today is Tuesday, the 9th of December 2025, and this is papertrail.com, daily streaming all about governance, risk, and compliance in the UK for SME and mid-market firms. So let's pick up from yesterday, which was about the emotional truth that people tense up, stress, and worries when expectations are unclear. And today is about the mechanics behind that tension. Because in most organizations, compliance is not complex because the rules are complicated. It is difficult because the expectations feel fragmented or duplicated and sometimes contradictory. So people end up guessing, hoping they are right, and bracing for security. And today we unpack why that happens and how to start fixing it. So today's topic, we can resume in reasons your compliance efforts may not be working, right? And these are the three most common problems. Problem number one is that many organizations struggle to meet the Information Commissioner's Office accountability expectations because decisions, owners, and documentation are not clear assigned and leading teams to interpret their own version of what's required. But here's the challenge, because if the expectations, decisions, owners, and documentations are clearly assigned, then there is no way to interpret things. They are very clearly assigned by name and surname and time and processes and systems, right? And systems, I'm not talking about software, literally. System is the way that you operate things. Problem number two, the health and safety executive guidance shows that unclear responsibilities increase hesitation, inconsistencies, and errors. So people cannot act confidentially if they don't know what good looks like. So pretty much they don't have a reference or a SOP, that is called also too, which is a documented process, operational system or process. And number three, frameworks often overlap. So you can imagine that GDPR, health and safety, cyber essentials, extended producer responsibilities, the payment credit card industry data security standards, information commissioners offices, and health and safety, I mentioned already. And these are only 5 out of the 16 that any UK company, SME and mid-market, is required to comply if they are in scope. So there are many others for similar outcomes in different languages. Different languages, I don't mean different like Spanish, English, Italian. And different language, I mean the different lingo. They have the reference to the same thing with a different name. And I give you an example next. And this is without a unified map. So staff repeats tasks because they cannot see how requirements relate, right? And here's an example in terms of language, and they don't have unified map and how things relate to each other. Imagine you have 3 recipe books describing the same stew, but they are named differently, and you're not aware of that. One is named goulash, the other one is named Enintopf, and the other one is named ragout. One is from Hungary, the goulash, Enintopf is from Germany, and ragout is from France. So you think you are doing a recipe that is exclusive or very particular for each region of those countries, but each one's use different names and titles and different countries. But you end up baking 3 stews instead of one, because at the end, a stew is a stew, and 70% of their ingredients of any of these stews are exactly the same. So you don't have to be a genius to imagine water, any kind of meat, veggies, salt, pepper, spices, and any of them, if you use the same ingredients with a little tweak at the end or way to cook it or process, is exactly the same stew. Not exactly the same because it's named particularly for that region or that country, but the ingredients to make them is pretty much the same. So here are 3 points to consider to solve these situations. 1, make expectations visible. The Information Commissioner's Office accountability model stress documented responsibilities and decision trails, so that clarity reduces rework and lowers pressure. Solution number 2, standardize the process. So the health and safety executive notes that consistency across workflows improves performances and reduces cognitive load. What that means? Overthinking, literally. So you don't have to think about it. I say, oh, I have to do this. This is my checklist. Right, I'm doing this. Here's a check. Oh, I've done it. Checked. Cognitive load disappears. The same logic applies to compliance across all departments. So it's not just one particular department. You can apply for across all the departments. And number 3, avoid this trap. Reduce interpretation, as we mentioned earlier. Define who owns which part of each framework. When ownership is explicit, not implicit, teams stop waiting, wondering, or improvising. So they move with confidence to do the things that they have to do, and that part, which is compliance, they just pretty much follow the process. So you can see we mentioned 6 different frameworks, but there are 16 of them, and we are not touching yet ISO, which is quality. We are not touching ESG. We are not touching SRS, and many others, like a PCR. So the complexities start to get very difficult. So you have many books, cooking books here, which are the compliance frameworks, with their own recipes, and they have an underlying duplication underneath, which is the same requirements with different ways to name it and different titles, themes, etc., etc. And this is particularly difficult for SMEs and mid-market companies where there are no dedicated teams, officials, or personnel within the company to run these compliance requirements. So no wonder 73% of UK companies outsource and hire consultants, advisors, or delegate to contractors. So, as I always mention in these live streams, that you and your company should have a compliance baseline, or at least a baseline in mind. So you can hire these consultants, advisors, or delegate to contractors under your own terms. So which would be your own terms, particularly when your compliance efforts are not working or you're being challenged with these things. So number 1, what are the outcomes that they're offering to you? Do they intake process maps that align your business profile with only the relevant obligation across all major UK frameworks, removing guesswork so teams know exactly what is in scope? What all this means, it means there are frameworks in the UK, and then you have a company profile. So you don't have to apply to all of them or be compliant with all of them, but your company profile will determine which one is the ones that you have to be compliant with. With that, you can create your processes, and those processes will be subject to the evidence that you're not subject, but actually they will produce the evidence that you are compliant, that you are doing what you said that you were about to committed to do based on the frameworks and your company profile, right? So it's processes, company profile, frameworks, company profile, processes, and evidence. Number 2, which is the differentiator that they are providing to you? Do they consolidate overlapping requirements into a single structure of pillars, themes, eliminate redundant interpretation, and give each team a single source of truth? Remember that actually you don't want people to be overthinking what they have to do and what look like. You want people to say, oh, I have to do this. This is a way to do it. This is my checklist. Done. Next. And number 3, how they reduce the risk to you and your company. How every obligation shows ownership, status, and linked evidence. So expectations become tangible. People see what's required, how it connects, and how or what progress looks like. So if I go from here to here, I want to see how that happens, and I know that I'm here, not there. So interpretation, overload, overthinking is gone. So one action that you can take today is to test this. Write down one task your team repeats across 2 or more frameworks. Then define a single owner, if it's not, and a single place where that task should live, meaning where you store that information. Can you do that in less than 30 minutes? If not, you may need to consider other solutions. And here it is what? You're looking for something that is faster, is more reliable, and is easier for everybody that is using it. That's why we created Paper Trail. If you want compliance expectations mapped, clarified, and deduplicated all in one place, join the Paper Trail early access waitlist and stop guessing what good looks like. And all of this is ready to demonstrate how you treat risk, which is the evidence collection, and the evidence itself. Because remember that evidence is the best defensible position that you ever have in front of audits, inspections, notifications, or whatever is the case. So you can stop activities that increase workload but add no value, increasing your cost and labor hours, expenses, and just redundant work. It doesn't add any value, as I mentioned, to your organization. Paper Trail is perfect for UK SMEs and mid-market firms because you use the same control library for health and safety, GDPR, DVCA, Cyber Essentials, EPR. So all these things actually are frameworks aligned with your company profile. So you're reducing the overlap by 60% and your costs by 80%. So you can do the same ingredients of the stew that I mentioned earlier. You don't have to buy 3 times the same thing. So you buy the quantity that you need to make different tag names, right? So that's reducing overlap and cost. So use the same evidence, the same processes, and the same repositories information to satisfy many frameworks with the different ways to say things. It's all in one place. It's a continuous gap analysis. It's a clear view of what's done, what is missing, and who owns and who is responsible to fix things before assurance, inspections, reports, or audits hits you. So you can do it once, you can do it properly, and then move on to the things that are more important to you, which is grow your company and be more profitable. So join the waitlist, papertrail.com, and stay tuned. Tomorrow, I will show you how the chaos in expectation disappears when expectations are consolidated into a single structure, and why that single structure map removes the 60 to 70% of duplicated effort, right? So